Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy Lewis, and here with me is Sandy Orlando, your two co-race directors of the Endurance Event Productions race series. And the races that we put on, the Georgina Spring Fling, the Kawartha Sun Run, the Georgina Marathon and Half Marathon, and the Oakville 21.1. So we're doing a series of events that, or a series of videos that kind of introduce you to some of the stuff that happens in the background when it comes to race organizing. So today we're going to talk about volunteers.
Yes, and so we're going to introduce virtually our volunteer coordinator, Doug Cooper. He's the fellow who's right down in the front there looking all like Burt Reynolds posy. Doug is a little shy. He didn't want to come on camera with us today, so Cindy's going to pretend that she's Doug and answer the questions that we would be asking him.
Doug and I work fairly closely as we work through the lead up to each of these events. So I'll do my best to answer the way that he might answer.
And this is just not Doug shaming. This is just giving him a break.
Yeah. So, he's our favorite person, you know.
Yeah. So, okay. So, Doug, why do we need volunteers for our races?
Well, we couldn't put on races without volunteers. So I know we talked about that, but I'm not sure that, you know, people totally understand how many volunteers and in what capacity we need those volunteers to put on an event. So like our Georgina Spring Fling event, for example, requires about 80 volunteers to put that on. And that's pretty much all on race weekend. Most of them, 95% of them on race day. And those are, you know, some really important people that show up at 5 a.m, work their butts off doing various tasks, which we'll talk about in a minute, until the race is over and cleaned up, which is about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And so keep in mind as we do that these are volunteers, right? These are people giving their time to help you guys have a really awesome race day. So that's the Spring Fling. Oakville, if you guys have come out to the Oakville 21.1, you'll know that it's a bigger and more complicated event. And that one has upwards of 200 volunteers for that race weekend. So, those are big numbers. And we really, really appreciate all of those people coming out to take part in some way, shape, or form. Some of them who are runners themselves, and some of them who are just members of the community who want to see an event thrive in their community.
So let's talk about what kinds of roles are involved in volunteering, because we're often saying, hey, we need volunteers, but perhaps people are hesitant to sign up because they don't really know what's involved. So let's, first of all, before the event, fewer volunteers, but what sorts of roles do we see there?
So before the event, we sometimes have volunteers help us with packing race kits, for example, which is like sometimes our events have a bag with some stuff inside that bag that you'll pick up when you get your bib number. So we may need volunteers to pack those with us. Can you think about what it would be like packing 2,000 to 3,000 bags with 5 different things in each bag? That's days and weeks worth of work. So we need some volunteers to help with that stuff. Leading into race weekend, we start having volunteers on Friday for a Sunday race. So when Sandy and I pull up with our U-Hauls and our trucks, we've always got some volunteers there to help us with unloading those trucks, getting all the race supplies out, organizing all those race supplies before race day. And then Saturday, for a Sunday race, we've got volunteers showing up to do your race kit pickup, which was often like a 6+ hour shift. There with, you know, computers or otherwise handing out race bibs, handing out t-shirts, trying to make that all go well. And I forgot about the advanced kit pickup. So on race week, we typically have 1 or 2 or 3 advanced pickups, maybe in Toronto, maybe in Oakville, maybe in Lindsay, where we have athletes or volunteers show up to give out those race kits and bib numbers early. So that's pre-race. Saturday, while we've got those volunteers working on giving out the race kits and the race bibs, we've got also a whole crew of volunteers at the actual race site, setting up as much of that as we can possibly set up. And that's the whole day. So basically the whole day, a crew of people giving out the race bibs. There's a crew of people at the race site starting to set up things like flags, barriers, partners, getting all the water bottles set up. And when you think about water bottles, you might think of a box of them. Think about 3,000 of them, filling up 3,000 water bottles, hauling them with, dollies and trucks and trailers to where they need to be on this morning. All of the stuff you kind of first think about as the job, then you need to start thinking about expanding it into the thousands, and it becomes, a little bit more real to think about all the people that are required to do one task that might be simple.
Mm-hmm. And then on race day, we've got volunteers in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the ones who are out on the course first of all.
So first of all, we've got volunteers show up on race day at like 4 a.m. to help us. That requires these people who are volunteering to get out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, or sometimes they drive from the city up to our race venues to get there at 4 a.m. to help us, again, finish the setup in the park. So some of the stuff the day before we can't do, for whatever reason. We don't want to, for example, bring your medals out to the tables and set them up the day before, because what if, someone takes off with them that night? Although we have security in the park, like 2 eyeballs can't kind of see everything at all times. So there's that. The tents, finishing setting them all the way up, putting the stereo system out, putting the cones in the right place. We've got people from 4 o'clock in the morning doing that stuff. We've got people out helping the course team, like putting up tables and all the aid station or water station supplies, making sure all the signs are out along the course. There's like tons and tons of signs out there, all your distance markers, all your aid stations coming up, turn here, 5K turn, 10K turn, half marathon turn, all the signs for each distance. I'm talking about all the 5K, make sure they're coming back the right way, 10K, make sure they're coming back the right way. So all that stuff happens early in the morning before the athletes are awake. And then around 5:30, typically, or 6 o'clock, the biggest volume of volunteers start showing up. And those are your active volunteers that are handing you your water, for example, making sure that all those cups of exact nutrition and water are out at the water stations, getting into position to be a course marshal, being in the park to help give information, help make sure that you guys are in the starting corral the right way, make sure that, people are taking the right turns on the course. There's people out there everywhere, and parking is the other thing. So parking marshals, I'm trying to remember all the different positions. There's lots of them. So, if you don't like one, you want to take part in an event, we can help you find another one.
Yeah.
Roles on race day.
Yeah, it's true. And, just to be clear, all of these activities are managed and supported. So we do have hired crew who are race, course professionals. So they're giving you guidance on, what's happening, what you're supposed to do. It's not like you're just out there going, okay, everybody run around, right? So another aspect of what Doug does is basically communicate and coordinate and train some of these people. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Doug is amazing at making sure that everyone has every little bit of information that they need. So let's say, you live in Georgina, you wanted to take part in the Georgina Spring Fling this year, but you really have no idea how races work. That's totally fine and okay and great. Doug will help to find a position that makes sense for you. He'll make sure that you understand what it is, what the requirements are, make sure that you have everything that you need to be successful at it. So let's say you come on as a course marshal. He'll make sure you know exactly where to go, exactly where to park, exactly what your job is, what you're meant to do. If, there's a person you need to talk to lead the right way, someone from the community you need to talk to have them pause until there's space for their car to go out that road. You'll never not know what to do. You can be confident that you'll understand your position and job and have the appropriate instruction before race day. And at the same time, if you forget and you're out there, he's also available to answer questions throughout the day. So you'll always have support that way leading up and on race day.
Yeah, and contact information, can you call? Do you need to? Sometimes we have our volunteers on radio, for example, the lead bike people, right? So, some of these roles from the race director's perspective are critical because just for safety of the runners. So we need to have our marshals who can point you in the right direction, but also manage a situation where someone wants to come out and ride a bike or drive on the course. That kind of stuff, as well as, the lead bike. If they're not leading the right course, everybody's going off course. And that's really annoying for people, who are looking to Boston qualify or whatever. You want to make sure that you're getting it right.
And
All right. So in terms of support for our volunteers, what do we do to support them?
yeah, just sorry, one last thing to add to our kind of our last topic is just thinking like different levels of responsibility for different positions. So those marshal positions, those are adult positions, right? But if you have a teenager that you want to bring out to volunteer on race day, or that just wants to come out on their own because they need volunteer hours, they can work at a water station. And what they need to do in that case is just take the cups and hand them out to runners. So not every position comes with a ton of responsibility. Just talk to us if you want to be involved, and we'll work with you to figure out what the best position for you is.
Exactly.
Sorry, did you ask what level
Yeah.
of support would I get?
How do we support our volunteers?
So the instructions that we talked about before, having someone available, otherwise, you get a nice snack bag for the day, some nice hydration, you get a nice volunteer t-shirt, you get to walk around with, everywhere you go to, to show how important you were to make the events happen. And then you also, like, as a thank you, you'll get a coupon code so if you want to race any of our events in the future, or you want to pass that discount along to somebody who wants to take part, you're welcome to do that as well. You get 25% off a future race. And the cool thing is you can stack those 25%. So if you volunteer at 2 races, 25 plus 25, you've suddenly got 50% off a race. You volunteer for 4, you've got a free race entry. So we're happy to do that for you. And as a thank you for all your help.
I think sometimes when we talk about how early volunteers need to be out there, that's not everybody. So 3 and 4 in the morning, some people, particularly maybe a younger volunteer, might be going, okay, I'm just going to bed then. So, and we understand that. So, the different roles start at different times. And also, if you can't get there, we can also help figure out, for example, if you're a volunteer out on the course, we're not going to make you walk out 10 kilometers so you can be in the right position. So that kind of support, we need to know from the volunteers what they need in order to be successful in their role. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we talked about the stackable discount. So why volunteer? So, from a perspective of either a runner or someone who's a former runner or would like to be a runner, or, just why would someone want to volunteer? What do you get for it aside from the snack bag?
Honestly, it's really fun. It's fun to be part of a large event. It's fun to be part of a really positive and encouraging community. You get to meet a lot of people, networking. You get to just have a lot of fun. If you've been in the events or part of the events before, you know that the water stations are often like mini parties out there, music playing, cheer stations, stuff like that. It's just a really fun, supportive, positive environment. So that's the biggest reason. Second is you get to see, if you're from the community, you get to see an event bring that many people to your community to kind of show it off, and bring economics, bring money into your community as well, which is a really big deal for most of the smaller places that we put events on in.
Mm-hmm. Right. And for someone who's, maybe you've been a runner or you just like events or whatever, and learning from how a race works from the inside is really a big aspect of it, because, some people would like to get involved with race directing. She left us. The dogs. Sorry. The dogs. So, Doug's back, and with the dogs. It really gives you an opportunity to learn how races work from the inside. And if you're a runner, you may just, before we even started race directing, we were participants, and you didn't really have a full appreciation for what really happens out there. So this is a really great learning opportunity if you're thinking about that.
Yeah.
Student hours. But, one of the most important things I feel from having raced and from having been a volunteer is inspiration. And I'm talking about two-way inspiration. So you will find yourself inspired by the people that you see out there in the stories, the people who are unbelievably fast flying by, like, wow, that's awesome. But also the people who are gutting it out and, doing it for whatever reasons. Maybe it's their first long distance race. Maybe they've got their kids with them. Maybe they're doing it because they're coming back from injury or helping. You see so many stories and they're so inspirational for you as a volunteer. The other way is you as a volunteer have an opportunity to inspire the people who are running simply by cheering, by being there for them, by yelling at them, you got this, looking good or whatever. And someone who might be struggling and they're walking it out, okay, get running again, don't forget to run. Having a little bit of fun stuff like that, but you'll be inspiring them as well. It's the energy that passes back and forth is really quite meaningful. And I think a lot of people end up coming back to volunteer because of that kind of a reciprocity. There you go.
I'm starting to remember an experience that I had actually with my parents at a race where after the race, they were like, people just like me were in that race, people just like them. I mean, we're in that race is what I had to say. And, often you might think that everyone in this event, looks like some sort of super athlete or is some sort of super athlete. But if you are out there volunteering, just as a member of the community, you might find that you realize that people just like you are taking part, and that can be life-changing. We might see you in there in future years.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that happens a lot, and we're glad for it. Welcome everybody. Yeah. So how do you sign up?
I was going to say, so if you would like to volunteer with us, you can go to our website, enduranceeventproductions.com, and you can click on one of the races, and you can click on the link near the top left that says volunteer, and that'll take you into the system to get yourself signed up. Or if that all sounds too complicated, you can send an email to Doug, at EEP volunteer coordinator at gmail.com, and just let him know, if you're interested in a specific event or just, any of the events in general. And he'll start a communication line with you about how you can take part.
Mm-hmm. And so one thing, when you go to our website and you click on the event, you would need to click on register, and then it would take you to the race roster, and then you'll find volunteer down the side, right?
You just have to click on the event and it takes you to race roster, and then your link to volunteers.
Right. So have a look at it there. You can volunteer for a number of different roles. A lot of people want to be at the finish line, and that's understandable because it's fun to give out medals and it's fun to do all that, but we need people all over. So pick a bunch of different ones, and then we'll figure out with you whether maybe you can start one place and go to another, or maybe we'll figure out what's the best opportunity. Yep. Right, Doug?
You got it.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Doug though is amazing, and we really appreciate him. So joking aside, we also couldn't do these races without him. So at some point he's going to watch this because I'm going to send it to him so he can laugh. But he's very important to us and making our events happen. So all you guys out there watching, we appreciate you as well, and we look forward to seeing you in some capacity at one of our events in 2026. So happy training, happy running. Until then, have a great day.